Critical EDH, it's finger, looking good.
Oh my god. He's been doing a new one for every single time we record, and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of into it, I'm not going to lie. That's a good sell.
I think that's also a description of my CDH play style. I guess improv all my way down.
So I think our guest needs no introduction, but tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Ian of the YouTube channel ComedianMTG, co-host of the Mind Sculptors podcast, co-host of the Dice and Daydream show, which is not currently out, but you might see it later, and set guy of the Scribe Movies. I do a lot of shit.
Like, dude, your resume just keeps getting longer and longer. Like, you're just such a staple of our format and of Magic in general. And
Appreciate it.
we love seeing you at events, and this is the second time we've gotten to meet, and I think actually third if you count our coaching
Yeah.
So speaking of things that keep getting longer and the format, how long has one game been going?
Well, round timer is 80 minutes.
Yeah,
And we're how many minutes over?
65 currently. Yeah.
Is that all?
Yeah. Only 65 minutes. Yeah.
And it doesn't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon.
No,
man.
It's kind of nasty.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, if you're out there, you're a TO, 25-minute timer. Start adding it for turn zeros. And if your players go, boo, why are you not just doing a 105-minute timer? Because we want one turn. We want it to end at 80 minutes. But if it has to go longer, 25 is the maximum.
What are your thoughts on, because I know in Japanese tournaments, when the round timer ends, stack
absolutely
gone.
Not. Absolutely not.
Or the stack
I
is
think
clear.
I have, well, at 25 minutes after round zero, yes, 100%. I think that is totally fine. 90% of the rules they have in Japan, I think, are respectfully illogical in a lot of things and just have no credence to how, and especially, like, there is a major, because I've actually worked with a lot of Japanese people in the past, and it is a cultural difference in how they play the game, and with the amount of like just yapping that happens in the States or in Europe and all of them. Yeah, I mean, well, Europe yaps even more than we do, which is crazy. Like,
do you think the like our format and the way we're doing time and stuff allows for that space for yapping? Because do you think, like,
if
sure
that
there's a
goes away
reason.
from the format, I think the format's dead, to be honest. I think if there is
so
no speaking in
interesting.
CEDH, I think it is a nonsensical format because it is literally just variance of the format.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I would quit immediately.
Okay.
Yeah. There are games where also I don't say a word, right? Like, unless it's extremely relevant, right? Like, I'm very surgical with when I speak in games, but like there are times like the fact that an opponent could punt into a thing and the idea that you wouldn't be able to say anything about that, it's like, what am I even doing here? That's just
That's so true.
You play turbo and waste your time, I guess. Like, that's at that point just play 60 card.
Because on one hand you have the deals of like people passing cards back and forth,
Right.
like, don't cross this.
Yeah,
but other times you have someone who like goes to cast like a stacks piece, and you're like, dude, I love you. You
Please
can't.
don't. Yeah.
Please stop. It's a good joke, a great joke even.
Very funny. Please don't.
Please don't. Yeah, it would so radically change the format.
Yeah. I think it would be literally so boring. Like, because it's literally just all right, here's some powerful cards. Can I play this? Seems bad time right now. Oh, don't say that. You can't say words. Anyways, have a good day.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this a little bit before we dragged Ian over here. I ran into like a super weird situation where I don't think that the player was intentionally using the clock to their advantage, but at that point they couldn't win, and then they put a Final Fortune on the stack. And at that point, no one had interaction for the Final Fortune, but they didn't really also have a win, like a definitive win. So that's kind of taking me off of like my win.
I'm 90% sure, to be honest, because you said verbally they said, I'm playing for a draw now, right?
Yes.
So that is, I'm like, because I had a friend get DQ'd for doing that before, actually. So I'm 90% sure that actually falls under stalling.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Yes. I should have called a judge.
I believe so.
I think that's maybe my
This is another lesson for the audience out there. There's actually rules to protect you as a player from bad things. Not all of them, but sometimes.
I also think it was non-deterministic because what they had was they had a bunch of necro cards in hand.
Okay.
They could filter it down.
Okay.
They said, like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm kind of up against the clock. I'm going to just jam the cards that I can, rip a Final Fortune. Two of us had Ristics. Again, the specifics are like not that important.
Yeah.
But as the player in front of me, and I'm like coming around to my turn, I'm like, oh wait. Now, because the timer is like 2 minutes on the clock, there's no way that his next Final Fortune turn is going to end in 2 minutes.
Right.
And then I'm like screwed out of a turn.
Basically,
because of this. And like whether they can present a win or not. I've had that weird experience now, and like I don't know how that gets, like, how do we avoid things like that, or how do we get players into a mentality where it's like we need to avoid these draws.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I walked out at the end of round 2, and I had 7 separate conversations where someone went, my opponent showed me a pact, and we had to call the draw.
Whoa.
7. Insane.
Dang.
I also think like this is a personal gripe, and I like this. This came up in my one of my most recent rounds, which was also a win and in, right? And so like everyone in this pod was on a win and in at this point, and a player forced a draw, basically very aggressively, and they were like, "Well, there's no way I'm winning this game," and I think that mentality is so ridiculous. Like we talked about it in the game afterwards. Like I think if you're like, oh, I had to blow up all my lands, and also this other thing happened, and also this other thing, like I have no cards in hand, I have no lands, and like whatever, that's different, right?
Yeah.
But like player with, yes, there was a Con Sphinx on the board, there's a One Ring online that they had, and they're like, well, I can't possibly win this game. And I'm like, how do you?
You're telling me that your CDH deck can't piece together cards to win the game after you have that.
Right.
I don't think so.
Yeah. So I was just like, that mentality, I think, is where we're losing people and making these sort of, in my opinion, ridiculous situations, right? Like
that's super interesting.
You know, it can be philosophy difference. I talked to the player afterwards, and I was like, no shade, right? Like whatever. But like, it was just like, I guarantee there was a game to be played there, and one of us could have walked away with a win, and instead of just wang kicking each other and being like, I guess it's a draw now, we instead lose. You know, so
did we do it?
They're making an announcement,
or are they talking about the redemption event?
Big redemption event.
Oh my goodness!
I definitely, holy cow.
So I had this experience now before round 1 or round 1 today, and then round 6 or whatever. And after, I'm walking around talking to people. Like, I know we're good players. I'm talking to you, talking to like other people, and I'm like, "How are you doing? Like, how's everything?" And I keep hearing this number like 12. Yeah. And it's like 12 points. Yeah. Everybody has 12 points. Everybody's on breakers. If they get one win, they might get in on like their opponent win percentage and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't think that's a good feeling. It's not like I can, Dom did really well. He's just walking by, but Dom did really well day 1. Yeah. And he's on 14 points, and he's still not guaranteed.
Same. So I mean, I started off the tournament 2-1, right? And now I'm on a bubble where I'm playing a win and in.
Dude, it seems like so many people are in that position. Yep. And you're kind of talking like the overall like vibe or this is like a tense tournament.
The vibes are good. Everyone's super nice, but it's also just like the tournament structure that we're in currently is putting people in a bad like
it's hard to say. I think this is just like somewhat of competitive Magic thing or a competitive anything thing, right? Like you just end up with a lot of good players who don't make the top cut, and I think this more so speaks to the fact that our top cuts are too small. I think that is we have had many tournaments of this size that are top 40 cuts, and they make, in my opinion, way more sense. I think we should be getting away from top 16 as soon as you pass like 100, 200 people, right? Like
even do like a top 32 maybe, and like 10% of the tournament.
I don't think we can do mathematically a top 32, right? Because well, no, you can do top 32. I think it's just messy, right? Yeah. Like the idea that the first seed can lose in the quarterfinals, I think is very messy. I see. But and also adding more single elim because that's now 8 untimed pods. Right, and that's a nightmare. As opposed to the top 40 cut, which top 8 just go to top 16.
I'd almost want
and then 4 untimed pods, which is way less, right?
Yeah. Theorizing on like tournament structure is probably not that interesting, but I almost see like a world where we run 5 or 6 rounds day 1, and then like do the top cut. Just start with top cut the next day. Because then you either know or you don't know if you make it, and then do the redemption event at the same time as top cut.
I do think the way we have redemption event is a little awkward because there's going to be people who like lose win and ins on the main event, and then like
now what am I doing?
Yeah, now you're just like, all right, cool. I guess I can faff about all day, right? Yeah,
right.
So I feel like what we're kind of talking about is almost. I mean, we started talking about like the Japanese CDH scene. Yeah. But here in the States, we have a very specific culture of CDH that we're playing into. Yeah. And so part of it is just the nature of a competitive format. Sure. People want to win, newsflash. Yeah. What are ways, for instance, that the average tourney grinder, someone who, maybe they aren't always in top 16, but they're trying to travel to events, whether, be a 60 person or 120 person. Yeah. You talk about how you want people to move away from
Let's say they just finished up.
Sounds
so
like
trying to wrap
finished
up here.
it.
Yeah, about 30 seconds.
What's your advice for people who are stuck in like draw hell?
Just don't perpetuate it, right? Like if you're like, there is a game where I literally yesterday did not make a land drop because I mulled the 3 going forth and I should have packed, right?
Yeah.
That is an extreme circumstance.
Super
I
extreme.
think many people are just willing to just do stuff like that all the time. Like I think if you are concerned about like these, like I heard literally someone go, oh, I'm playing packed so I can force draws. That is a problem. I think explicitly, I've also seen players who will go, I'm going to protect this person's win unless we offer a draw right now, which I also think is ludicrous, right? Yeah. So I think, yes, it's a flaw in the system, and there's always going to be people who exploit those flaws, but like just don't be part of the problem, and it's going to be a minority, right?
Gotcha.
Like,
yeah.
I think that's something we'll have to work on and focus on is spreading the good word of like drawing is okay, but also you can try to avoid those draws and still play to win.
Well, and this is the problem. Like, we have a lot of good players right now who, some of them were those people forcing draws, and guess what? They're in the bubble right now, and they're all playing win-ins, and they're about to all take each other out on win-ins too.
Yeah,
it's not helping.
Not where you want to be.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think something I take away from this is I think trying to grow in CDH, I think I've recognized that like drawing is a really powerful tool, but it can only get you so far.
It can only get you so far.
So looking towards the future, I think I want to adopt more of that mentality of like I'm here to win,
right?
And really cement I would rather lose than draw.
Yes.
Because if we all draw,
I'm sitting down in my I'm sitting down in my next pod and going, I do not care what happens. I will not accept an ID in this pod.
Yep.
Because I need to win. I do not care what happens for everyone else's record. I do not care if I make a top 32 breakers, like whatever. I am looking down at that pod and I'm making eye contact with everybody, and I was like, I'm going to go. I'm not accepting ID no matter what. So please do not ask.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. 12 points. Good luck,
yeah,
brother.
Hell yeah.
And
Thank
thanks for joining us, and we'll try to catch you next round.
Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.